It's time to talk some sports on a Thursday with our guy, Pep. We got a lot going on. Pep, what's up?
Patrick, it all comes down to this. Friday night, Dodger Stadium, Game 5 of the National League Divisional Series between the Dodgers and the Padres as the Dodgers fought off elimination last night. A big 8-0 win down in San Diego, man. What a series. And to think that it's all going to come down to just a single game, man. It's going to be a lot of fun on Friday night.
I guess it is kind of fitting because these two teams have been going at it, and it does show that they match up pretty well. I mean, if you just watched the game last night, it may not seem like it, but this is kind of fitting. We need a game 5 between these two teams. They do make it back to Dodger Stadium. There was kind of a fear that they wouldn't.
Yeah, you know what I mean? We've talked about this before. You can be fantastic during the regular season. And think about for the Dodgers season, man. Shohei Ohtani had this historic year. Freddie Freeman's son had some health ailments going on, and he was away from the team. Mookie Betts had a big slump. Like, Clayton Kershaw's now out he was gone, then he came back, and now he's gone again. Like, there's been so many layers to this Dodgers team, yet they were still the best team, the best record during the regular season. But Patrick, none of that will matter, right? If they don't advance. And all that money they spent, they've got to get to the World Series. So none of that would matter unless they advance.
Baseball is so strange like that, too. You never know what baseball is going to do to you. I mean, just look at the Mets and the Phillies.
Yes.
Look how hot the Phillies were basically nearly all year long, and how horrible the Mets were. Of course, the Mets make it in, catch fire, and now the Mets eliminate the Phillies. That is baseball, the perfect example right there.
Now, I am a Mets fan, and you know what? 2 months ago, they were like 10 games under 500.
Yeah.
They weren't even relevant. People weren't even talking about them. Like, the best teams in the National League were the Dodgers, the Phillies, the Braves. They had some, injury issues, but the Braves are always the Braves. They were going to be there. Of course, the Padres, Milwaukee. Like, dude, the Mets weren't even on the radar of the National League, playoff hierarchy. And now the Mets wait for the winner of the Dodgers and Padres for a trip to the World Series. So, yeah, you're right. They got hot at the right time at the end of the season. They beat the Phillies 3-1. So now they're going to be kicking back, watching the Dodgers and Padres on Friday night to see who they're going to play. But just because you are dominant during the regular season, it just doesn't translate to the playoffs. Baseball, I feel, and hockey are those two sports where it just doesn't matter. You can be the number 1 seed with the best record, but that doesn't mean anything. Like in football, and I'd feel like the NBA playoffs a little bit more as well. Like if you're one of the higher seeded teams, it's because you are one of the better teams and you're expected to advance, and that's usually what happens. But man, baseball is a funny thing.
It's kind of fun in a way that even if you play like crap all year, if you can just somehow, some way get in, you can catch fire and take it over, man. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, and you could say, too, like the Dodgers maybe took that momentum away from the Padres. Maybe the Padres felt like, hey, you know what? We got the momentum. If we can steal Game 4 on our home field last night at Petco Park, we need to put the Dodgers away because we don't want them to grab that momentum back from us. Now they go back to Dodger Stadium. It'll be a movie, as the kids are going to say. It's going to be awesome on Friday night. But, yeah, for the Dodgers to make the regular season worth it, they have to advance. No one's going to remember that they had the best record. I mean, think about it. Last year in the World Series, it was Arizona and Texas. Like, where did they come from? They're not even in the playoffs this year. You got to capitalize on a great regular season.
You really do. The Dodgers especially.
All right, Game 5, Friday night, LA. The winner will advance to take on the Mets. In the American League, the Yankees are up 2-1 on the Kansas City Royals. And in the other American League Division Series, Detroit is up 2-1 on Cleveland. Another scenario where Cleveland was great during the regular season, but these pesky Tigers from literally out of nowhere are 1 game away from advancing to the championship series.
And Detroit, no real star on that team. Just kind of a bunch of good players. And I guess it goes to show you, man, look out. You don't know what's going to happen. Baseball is so weird like that.
Yeah, honestly, I had to Google and really dig through the stats of the Detroit Tigers, and they've got one dominant pitcher who's probably going to be the Cy Young winner for the American League. But Patrick, after that, their stats are terrible. I'll be honest. Like they don't have any stars. Like how are they winning, or how did they get to this point? I'm really not sure, because when you just look at the numbers, they are not good.
Just a bunch of dudes.
Just a bunch of dudes, man, who go out there and they're balling out right now. So they're one win away. So right now, it could be a Tigers-Yankees championship series in the American League, which sounds so weird to say, but that's where we're headed.
Yeah.
All right, here we go. Some NFL football. We got a big one on Thursday Night Football. My 49ers, Patrick Seahawks. And Patrick, I'm not one of those fans who, I guess I should be, but I'm not a glass half full guy. It's not like, 49ers are getting healthy and they've shown some signs. We're going to turn things around. I'm more of like an angry fan with an attitude. Like, man, we suck. We're not going to figure this out. This is who we are. We are who we are. And going into this game, especially on the road in Seattle, man, I don't know. I like your guys' chances better in this game.
I think not having Christian McCaffrey does take away a kind of dynamic feel that the 49ers have. It is a team, and you don't want to blame it all on one guy, but not having him is a thing. I will give you one thing. One thing I do believe you have going in your favor is we're coming off Monday Night Football, then to Sunday, now a short week for a Thursday. I do feel like that is a lot tougher than people want to give credit for. It's been kind of like 3 games in a week and a half, basically, for the Seahawks. A couple of a tough loss. I think it could be trouble.
Yeah, dude, both of us. You're coming off a loss to the Giants. The 49ers are coming off a loss to the Arizona Cardinals, a game that they both should have won, right? And then at least for my 49ers, with Christian McCaffrey out in that game against Arizona, Deebo Samuel was not a factor. Juwan Jennings, who had that monster game against the Rams, maybe they're intentionally trying to get Brandon Ayuk more touches or, more looks, but he hasn't been a factor. I don't know. I wish I could be like, oh, you know what? We're showing signs. There's glimpses of what we can do. We're getting better. I just don't see it right now. And maybe, like you mentioned, CMC, Christian McCaffrey, maybe he really does mean that much to the offense. Like, so much attention is paid to him that these other guys are getting freed up to make some big plays. So I don't know, man. Like, the Seahawks and the 49ers still have a chance to win that division because that division just is not very good. The NFC West is just not good this year.
As the great Reggie Jackson would say, McCaffrey is the straw that stirs the drink.
Yeah, he really is. And I didn't realize how much we were going to miss him because I'm like, wow, we got stars all over the field. Our defense is pretty good, although they don't show up when they need them the most, and I won't go there. I won't go down that road right now. But we do have a lot of weapons on offense. Like there's enough talent to go around that we're still going to be okay. But man, I don't know. I know they didn't want to rush him back, but at this point, they might need to rush him back if they're going to try to save this season.
It's a tough time right now for a lot of teams.
It's a tough time. Thursday Night Football, 49ers and Seahawks coming up this weekend. The Chargers coming off a bye week. They are going to get the Denver Broncos this weekend. So we'll see if the Chargers can keep things going in a divisional game that they need to win if they feel like they're going to be a playoff team. Because Denver is okay, but that is a winnable game for the Chargers.
Definitely. I mean, who knows what Bo Nix is going to do? You kind of saw him and Sean Payton jawing at each other. Yeah. Is that a good sign? Is that a bad sign? Drew Brees thinks it's a good thing. He says that's what Sean wants, but we'll have to see. He's a young quarterback. They might get after him.
Young quarterback going against a tough defense with the Chargers, so that should be an interesting game. And finally, we've got the Raiders taking on the Steelers. And at least in Raiders camp, some change is coming, man. Your guy, Gardner Minshew, no longer QB1 for the Silver and Black. They're going to give the ball over to Aiden O'Connell, who started multiple games last season. He did enough to remain the starter for the Raiders for a lot of games last year. But when they got Gardner, they were like, hey, he's our guy this year. But that didn't last very long, did it?
And I feel like they rode him as long as he could. And so they'll put in Aiden. And if anything happens to Aiden, at least you have, Gardner to do something if you do need him. It's kind of an interesting quarterback deal. There's a lot of buzz about Russell Wilson on the other side with the Steelers. He's finally healthy. So, there's people wondering, will they make the move to Russell Wilson? The Steelers have been kind of doing okay with Justin. So it's kind of interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, both those teams have some very interesting quarterback things going on. At least for the Steelers, you ride the hot hand, right? Like it's a NHL goaltender. Who's got the hot hand? And right now, Justin Fields has done a good job early on in the season. Now, things go sideways in the Steel City. I think they might turn to Russell Wilson at some point. They didn't bring him in just to hold the clipboard. So if things get a little sideways, I still think we'll see Russell Wilson. But if they keep winning, you got to stay with the hot hand. And for the Raiders, Patrick, they're just not good. I don't know if Gardner Minshew's the problem. They're just not a good team. Devontae Adams wants out. Like they're just not very good. And I think they're just trying to do something. Maybe it's just for optics. I'm not sure. They're just trying to do something to feel like, okay, we're making changes to give ourselves a chance to win.
Man, we are going to have a lot to talk about after tomorrow, after Friday, on Monday with our guy, Pep. A lot will be decided. That's what we got our guy. Pep, tell him how to get your stuff.
It's going to be a movie. Dodgers Padres Friday night. We'll break that down on Monday. Woo! Check out my stuff on Inland Sports, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Inland Sports on the old YouTube channel. That's Inland Sports.